Howdy Friendos, Crazy Jason here, and welcome to my Wacky Emporium. And finally, I am doing my top 20 movies of the 2000s, or the past decade. That would be from the year 2000 to 2010. I was originally going to do a top 10. I mentioned that in a previous video. But my God, putting these movies together, I just couldn't pare it down to a top 10. And it was hard to pare it down to a top 20, to be honest with you. And I've always said I hate the numerical aspect of these top lists. There should be, at least 30 or 40 movies in this top 20. At least. Well, maybe not. But there's probably at least another 10 to 15 films that I'll regret not having put in this top 20. But that's the great thing about having this YouTube community. Because you guys will remind me of movies that maybe I should have considered for this top 20. And what I always love is the back and forth aspect, whether you tell me in a comment or in a video response, sharing your thoughts on the top movies of the 2000s. But before I get into these movies, I need to give a big shout out. Most of you guys know the Flick Pick. Many of you may not know that he started a new channel called simply John Flickster. And that's his separate vlog channel. But it's not just that. He does a lot of really interesting, funny stuff that you don't see anywhere else on YouTube. He does, skits. He does Around the Towns. And, the aforementioned vlogs. He does just a lot of random, really funny shit on there. That I really think you guys should check out. It's the kind of things that we just like to watch. It's not necessarily movie related. He wanted to create a separate channel to do the things he couldn't do on his main channel that aren't movie related. So anyway, link in the underballs. I'll put the link to his regular channel in case you haven't been to it. But most importantly, I'll put the link to his new channel. Be sure to go check it out, and always, as always, rather, tell him that Crazy Jason sent you. Okay, so that was my shout out, and now on to the top 20. By the way, this video is going to be a two-parter. I'm going to deal with numbers 20 through 11 in part 1, and then, of course, the top 10 in part 2, which will be coming, in a few days. So, anyway, my criteria. Yes, my criteria. It's, my criteria for this is similar to the criteria I've had on my other videos and my other top lists, except I was being a little more stringent. These films have to deliver the complete and total package, from the story and the script, through the production design, the performances, the direction. Everything has to be, really, really solid. And, of course, the rewatchability factor comes into play. Most importantly, though, all of these films have to make me feel something, whether that's just the excitement of a well-done, big-budget Hollywood film, or whether it's sadness or laughter, it's got to make me feel something, and it's got to have that intangible movie magic that you hear so much about, where we can talk for days about the technical aspects and how great a performance was and how beautiful the cinematography is, but we can't quite explain what makes it a great film and what makes us keep coming back to these movies, because it has just that intangible magic that separates the very good movies from the great movies. So, with that being said, my criteria there, I'm going to jump right in. At number 20, I put The Incredibles. Now, this could be higher on my list, for sure. But I just stuck it there. And yes, I do need to stop being lazy and get all the stickers off of my slipcover there. The Incredibles may be my lone animated film that I have. And I know there were a lot of great animated films in the 2000s. In fact, that was probably one of the saving graces of the 2000s, were all of the great especially the Pixar films. You know, out of all the really great ones, Wall-E, Monsters, Inc., etc., etc., my pick was the Brad Bird's The Incredibles. I'm a big fan of Brad Bird, and when I finally get around to talking about the films of 1999, we're definitely going to have to talk about The Iron Giant, which is the movie that made me a really big fan of Brad Bird's. Speaking of which, I need to check out Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. Didn't he direct that? Heard it was pretty good. But I digress. Moving on. Next up on my list, number 19, Tropic Thunder. Now, there's a lot of comedies I could have picked from the 2000s. Again, the 2000s produced a lot of great comedies. 2000s, in my mind, were pretty much ruled by the Judd Apatow crowd, and there were a lot of, you know, films that came out that were hilarious and raunchy and pushed the envelope. But my pick is Tropic Thunder, directed by Ben Stiller, Robert Downey Jr. in blackface. Genius. Who could pull that off but Robert Downey Jr.? This movie is kind of, you know, again, this is a subjective thing for me, because at the time I was actually writing a script that was somewhat similar in tone and atmosphere to this movie. Just very crazy, adventurous, silly kind of movie that it just, I don't know, it just takes you places you don't expect, you know, it to. You never know what to expect from one scene to the next. Just a hilarious movie that I can go back to and watch over and over. Okay, moving on. The Western pick, 3:10 to Yuma. And yes, for the most part, Hollywood fluff. But Russell Crowe delivers an outstanding performance here. Christian Bale, of course, delivers a good performance, as he always does. This is one of those movies that has that intangible thing. When I was sitting in the theater watching it, I was like, okay, this is going to be, it's going to be actually a good movie. Yay, you know, which was starting to become a rare thing in the late 90s to early 2000s. 1999 accepting, and a smattering of films here and there, but we'll talk more about that later. 3:10 to Yuma. I don't know. Again, a very subjective pick for me. So let's move on. I'm going to lose count, by the way, folks, so sorry about that. My superhero movie pick of the 2000s is X-Men 2. That's right. You know, Spider-Man 2 I thought was great. Kick-Ass I wanted to put in here, but I think that, you know, I don't think that would have fit into the 2000s. I believe that was released in 2010, correct? Yeah, I could have cheated, because later on I'm going to do a little bit of a cheat. But I picked X2. This delivered the complete package, from the story to the performances to the action sequences. Everything makes this movie eminently rewatchable. Just in my mind, the best superhero movie of the 2000s. And again, another genre like comedies and Pixar films that ruled the 2000s would be the comic book adaptations. And there were a lot of good ones. And I'm sure you guys would disagree, but that's my pick. Next up, we have a movie that really makes me feel a whole lot. And, you know, in a lot of ways, it's kind of a hard film to watch, as many of his films are. And I'm talking about Darren Aronofsky's The Wrestler. In my opinion, his best film. A lot of you, I'm sure, would disagree and say, you know, Black Swan or maybe Requiem for a Dream. But for me, this movie, I don't know, it was more than just the direction was great. Because I don't like to just pick movies based on you know, just character pieces. You know, when the Academy Awards come around and you see those actors that are nominated for films, but the film has no nomination for screenplay or direction, you know, and it's just, you know, the screenplay and direction are kind of but the performance is great. You know, that's not the case. This brings the complete package, in my opinion. Mickey Rourke delivers the greatest performance of it. It was like he was born to deliver this performance, and it seems like everything that happened in his life led up to this performance, and everything, the use of the camera, the use of the sound effects, you know, it's just a great film. And I don't know, if you've lived life, if you've been around this earth long enough and had enough heartbreak, if this movie doesn't bring some tears to your eyes, man, you don't have a soul. Well, I'm not going to say that, but okay. Next up, going a little more lighthearted here, and this is probably a pick that's going to surprise a lot of you guys, and that would be Juno. It's sort of my feel-good movie from the 2000s. This movie, I don't know, it just gets better and better every time I watch it. And this is a movie I thought I was going to hate with every fiber of my being. I remember when I saw the trailer, I refused to watch the movie. I didn't like the way, you know, the characters talked. I didn't like, you know, all the little, I don't know, linguistic, you know, jumping jacks. I don't know what to call it, but the way that Diablo Cody wrote the script, I thought it was going to be very pretentious, and but I was absolutely dead wrong, and this has become one of my most cherished movies. Next up, my horror film pick, and that would be 30 Days of Night. Another movie, I saw this in the theater, and I thought it was pretty good. But on Blu-ray, it really, really started to grow on me, and the more I watched it, the more I loved it. Again, just everything about it, it's just got a great pacing about it. It just really gets you on the edge of your seat. Great performances. Great idea for a film. Surprised that it was never done before. Of course, I know it was, you know, adapted from a graphic novel. But, you know, I don't know what to say, guys. Eminently rewatchable for me. 30 Days of Night. Okay, next up. Another pick that may surprise some of you, and probably wouldn't make it onto a lot of people's lists, and that would be Rocky Balboa. Yes, I'm holding up the Undisputed collection, but that's because I got rid of my individual Rocky Balboa movie, because I got this for Christmas, and this really is the favorite thing I got for Christmas, I do believe. But Rocky Balboa, underrated. The year that movie came out, I think it was a travesty that wasn't nominated for awards such as screenplay, such as direction. This is a great bookend to Rocky. I think it rivals Rocky. I think it's Rocky's equal. And it's really Rocky and Rocky Balboa. I have so many things to say about Rocky Balboa. I really would have to do a standalone review of that film, because it just I don't know, it really impressed me, and you know, yeah, I will admit to some imperfections in that movie, but it made me feel and there was some imperfections, or some inconsistencies in some of the performances. There were some directorial choices with some camera angles and editing that I didn't agree with. But again, subjectivity ruling the day here. And at the end of the day, this movie really got to me, impressed me, and it's rewatchable. All right, next up, I'm doing the first cheat of this list, and that would be, it's not really a cheat, that would be Kill Bill Volumes 1 and 2. Now, I prefer Kill Bill Volume 2, but Tarantino has put together the whole bloody affair. Apparently it screened out in LA not too long ago, and I'm sure we'll see it on Blu-ray, you know, sometime within the next year. But In fact, I think I heard a rumor that it may be coming as a Blu-ray book edition, which would produce instant jism in my jeans. So, hoping for that. But, yes, Kill Bill. No surprise there, I guess. In my opinion, Tarantino's best. Okay, next up, this probably wouldn't surprise those of you who know me, and that would be The Road. This is one that saw in theaters. You know, the book was so dark and bleak, I just didn't think they would ever be able to pull it off. I didn't know how they could make an American, you know, movie. I didn't know that Hollywood could actually produce a movie version of the book that would give it justice, and yet they did. And I agreed with the way they injected Charlize Theron's character into the movie in a way that wasn't done in the book. It just lent it so much more depth and emotion. A hard movie to watch, but let me tell you something, folks. There are movies that are a lot harder to watch than this when it comes to the post-apocalyptic genre. This is a cakewalk compared to some of the other films out there like Testament and The Day After. But anyway, The Road, post-apocalyptic film, just absolutely great. Okay, so that brings us to the end of part 1. Part 2 coming very soon, wherein I'll be talking about the top 10 picks of the 2000s. So stay tuned, friendos.